You've probably noticed that a lot of the videos recently have been around this topic of dividend investing, and that's for good reason. I actually plan to start my own dividend growth investing portfolio very, very soon. So I wanted to sit down in this video and talk about my exact plan on how I'm going to do that, some concerns that often arise with dividend investing, and why I'm doing this. I've got some notes in front of me, so if you see me glance down, that's why, but let's jump straight into it and I'll talk through my plan. So my plan is to start a dividend investment portfolio, and specifically following the dividend growth strategy. Now, the important thing to note is that the companies to invest in are good companies. So these are companies that will see a growth in their stock price as well as increasing their dividends. And my plan is to have a dividend portfolio for the long run, so for the decades to come. And I want to hold this under my ISA to make it as tax efficient as possible. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reinvest all the dividends that I get paid. And this will over time snowball, and I'll increase my holdings in the companies that I pick. This portfolio is going to be really focused on those perhaps boring companies. So I'm not going to be picking companies that just pay a really high dividend yield, because they come with their own problems. I want companies that are like the dividend aristocrats, the ones that year on year for a long period of time have proven that they see both growth in their stock price and their company, but also they increase their dividends that they pay to their investors. And these are the really good quality companies. Now, within this dividend portfolio, I'm going to try and get it as diversified as possible. So I'm going to look to have lots of different sectors in there. Tech, financials, healthcare, and even some REITs are going to be in there as well. What I want to say quickly is this portfolio, this dividend portfolio, is not going to replace my portfolio that I already have, where I invest in ETFs and index funds. I am going to carry on doing that. So I will keep putting money into my global all cap, my S&P 500, my FTSE 100, and let that grow as well. That's going to be a separate portfolio in my eyes. And alongside this, I'm also going to keep investing in some really big growth companies, specifically Tesla. I still plan to increase my holdings in Tesla and grow that over time. But Tesla and some other growth companies, along with my index funds and ETFs, will be separated from my dividend investment portfolio. And I'm going to keep my exposure into cryptocurrency. That's something I haven't really talked about on this channel very much. I do plan to in the future, but yeah, I have a cryptocurrency portfolio and I plan to carry on adding to that. So that's the really rough plan. Now I want to talk about some concerns that I often see when looking into dividend investing. The biggest concern I often see is that someone of my age, and I'm only 26 at the moment, shouldn't really be doing dividend investing, and they should instead be putting their money into higher risk, more volatile assets like growth stocks, for example, or cryptocurrencies. Like I said, I am going to keep exposure to them classes as well. But in my opinion, I'm doing this for the long haul. So why not start early and start compounding my dividends and compounding my holdings into these companies in order to grow a dividend portfolio for myself in the future. I'm planning to start this portfolio in the hope that the pennies that I get paid in dividends in the beginning will slowly snowball, and this will become pounds each month and then hundreds of pounds each month. And eventually it will get to the point where I am earning thousands of pounds purely in passive income. So this is money that I've literally not had to work for, which I can then decide to fund my life with. Now, I don't know how 50 years in the future is going to look, whether I'll be living off my dividend portfolio and leaving my ETFs and index funds and other investments to perhaps my kids if I go on to have children. I don't know how that's going to look, but I do like this idea of having a passive income source in terms of having a dividend portfolio. The next concern that I see a lot, and it leads on from the first one a little bit, is that there's just not a lot of growth when you invest in dividend paying stocks. I guess this really depends on what companies you decide to hold within your dividend investment portfolio. For me, I'm going to be trying to pick companies that I still see growth in the future with. So I'm not going to pick companies that I think are just going to pay me a good dividend every month, but they're not going to grow. I'm not interested in companies like that. I want companies that I think are going to pay me a good dividend, they're going to increase their dividends, and as a company, they are going to continue to grow. And my thoughts is that I would much rather have a good quality company that pays less of a dividend that I see future growth in, rather than one that I don't see future growth in but pays me a higher dividend yield. Initially, dividends can be really small and not be anything special, but I believe that over time, if you keep reinvesting your dividends along with the capital growth appreciation that you see in the companies you invest in, it will really snowball and you can actually end up with quite exponential growth and a really big pot of money just by regularly reinvesting your dividends and allowing these companies to work for you. The next concern is that dividends are not guaranteed. And I completely agree. Of course, a company can cut its dividends and completely remove its dividends at any given time. And you do seem to see that in recessions and bear markets, and then in bull markets, they may increase them. But my thoughts here is that, again, I'm going to be picking companies that have the historical data to back up that they will continue to pay their dividends that they are promising. So like I said, these are the big guys. These are the dividend aristocrats. And whilst dividends are not guaranteed, you can sort of view dividends in a way to hedge yourself against recession if you pick the right companies. I have actually made a video all about the negatives of dividend paying companies, and I still think a lot of them points I said in that video are really true. And again, that is why I'm focusing on this dividend growth investing strategy, and I'm still keeping my holdings in my other types of investments, and I'm going to keep adding to them as well. And the last concern that I see thrown around is this idea of tax on dividends. I've spoken a little bit about dividend tax before, but essentially in the UK, and I believe this might have actually gone up now or changed slightly, but you get a dividend allowance of £2,000 each year tax-free. And then on top of that, you get your personal allowance. That includes everything, so all of your different incomes. And obviously, you can also hold your dividend paying stocks under an ISA, which makes them even more tax efficient. And that's exactly what I plan to do. I plan to move all of my investments under one tax efficient ISA. Currently, I've said before that I've got my ETFs and index funds on Vanguard, so it would not be possible to do this type of investing on Vanguard as they do not offer individual stocks. So I plan to move everything into one platform and do it all under one branch. I don't see myself going over the £2,000 of dividend allowance within the year straight away. Like I said, it's going to start really small. It's going to be 7 pence from this company, 6 pence from this company. But over time, it will snowball and I'll start reassessing my tax situation when the time comes. But like I said, I'm going to be holding it under my ISA. And I'm not going to be withdrawing the money. I'm going to be reinvesting all of those dividends because that's where I believe you see the most growth. So the last sort of section of this video is why I'm doing this. Why on earth would 26-year-old me want to start doing a dividend growth investing strategy? The first point comes under this idea of the psychology and the motivation. I think with dividend investing, it's really easy to stay motivated, and especially during bad market times. We are humans after all, and we get really affected by motivation and by the psychology and everything else that's going on around us. But I do also think it's a lot less likely to get unmotivated when you're seeing regular dividends being paid to you. And of course, if you pick the right companies, these dividends are going to be paid to you no matter if their stock price is down by 10% in 1 month or up by 3% the next month. And dividend growth investing instills this positive mindset. You are seeing those dividends come in month, and you are deciding to reinvest them or to start building a passive income for yourself. And that kind of leads on to this next point of a passive income. Now, it's really important to me to start building myself multiple income sources. And this is my plan in my 20s, really. I want to hit my 30s with multiple income sources that I have started myself and that continue to build over time. And one thing and one way that I really want to do this is through dividends, which is another big reason why I'm doing it. I eventually want my dividend passive income to be enough to pay my housing costs. That's sort of my first goal. And then maybe it can snowball and cover my entire life costs, who knows. But yeah, this idea of getting your money to work for you and literally not having to do anything for companies to pay you, that sounds really motivating and positive to me. And I do think it helps shift your focus away from share prices and downward trends in the market and instead instills this focus onto this positive mindset. And of course, this can really help reduce the stress of investing. I started this channel with the whole idea that I wanted to learn about personal finance and investing and share it with anyone that wanted to listen. And I continue to do that. So I want this little experiment, this dividend portfolio that I want to build, because I think that will be a fantastic way for me to learn about valuing companies, for me to learn about how to set up a passive income and multiple income sources, and just pick in really decent companies. Of course, I could just learn to be better at valuing companies and not start a dividend investment portfolio, but I want to do that anyway, so this is just another motivating factor. Another reason that I like dividend growth investing is that you get dividends and then you get to decide what you do with them. It gives this personal accountability to the investor. So if a company is going to pay me £20 a month, I then have to decide and use all my knowledge as to whether I want to reinvest that £20 into that company, whether I want to reinvest it into a different company, or of course, whether I want to withdraw that money and use it to go out and buy a burger. Like I said, I do plan to follow this DRIP strategy, which is basically where you continue to reinvest your dividends and build wealth over time. But yeah, you can decide what companies you reinvest them dividends into, which is of course quite good if you see a good company that you want to invest in at a lower price. However, with dividend investing, I don't really think you need to be too concerned about the share price when you invest, because you just want to continue investing into that company and just compound your dividends and the capital appreciation over time. So the last reason that I want to do this, and perhaps the most exciting reason for you as a viewer, is that dividend growth investing is really trackable. So I plan to literally show you guys how it's going. So I'm going to start a dividend growth investing portfolio, and I'm going to track everything. I'm going to track my monthly dividends that I get paid, the growth of my portfolio, and I'm going to share it all with you guys. So you'll be able to see every single week, every single month, however frequent I decide to do this, exactly how many dividends, how much in dividends I'm going to be paid, and how the portfolio is doing. And we can compare that to the likes of my S&P 500 holdings, or any other index, ETFs, Tesla, any other holdings that I have, we can compare it to, which is really, really interesting, I think. And it will be really nice to see this tracked and to see it grow over time. So like I said, I'm super excited about this. I really hope you'll join me on my journey. If you've got any opinions of dividend growth investing, do leave them in the comments below and I'll have a little flick through and read of them. If you want to watch some other dividend-based content from me, then check out this playlist right here.